Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Kashif Kamran, your tutor. A very warm welcome to the Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass webinar for September 2021 exams being organized by ACCA Pakistan. Please confirm me that all of you can hear me before I start the proceeding of this webinar. Okay, that's great. So if you can all hear me, let's start on with the proceeding of this September 2021 Practice to Pass webinar for Advanced Audit and Assurance. Now, just before I start on with the proceeding, I would like to formally introduce myself. Now, this is my tutor profile. In terms of my tutor profile and particularly my experience, it's been 14 years since I am teaching the ACCA qualification, and my specialization is in both the AA paper and the AAA paper alongside the SBL paper. I'm also a registered mentor for Oxford Brookes University research projects, and I am currently associated with PAC, which is a gold approved learning provider of ACCA in Lahore, Pakistan, and the Bani School of Accountancy, which is a platinum approved learning provider of ACCA in Karachi, Pakistan. This is my 13th AAA practice to pass session I am conducting for ACCA Pakistan. So this is my tutor profile. Now, moving away from the tutor profile, and this is how you can reach me on my social media presence. You can follow me on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Kashif Kamran. You can follow me on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/AAA by KK. You can email me any of your queries at kashifkamran@gmail.com, or you can WhatsApp me at my WhatsApp number, and you can also interact with me on the WhatsApp student groups, the links of which will be shared with you during the webinar today. So with that, let's start on with the proceedings of this Practice to Pass webinar for September 2021 exams. Now, just before I get into the specific agenda for each day of the webinar, I would like to spend time discussing with all of you the recent pass rates, the paper format of the AAA, and some very journal examiner comments. Now, this will really help us formulate the 5-day of this webinar. Let's start on looking into each one of them in order. Now, first of all, the objective of this practice to pass session, just like the previous ones, the objective is to provide you the right direction to pass the exam, a direction which is closer to the examiner mindset. Now, each time in my webinars I have conducted for ACCA Pakistan, I have tried to establish that the expectation gap between the student and the examiner gets down. Because if the expectation gap between the student and the examiner is very wide, you will not pass the AAA paper. So during this webinar as well, I'll try to ensure that we reduce the gap between the student and the examiner, because that's the only way you can pass the AAA paper. This session over the next 5 days will be a mind opener for all of you, as this session will provide you the right tips and the right techniques to control the AAA paper and the right way to practice for the upcoming September 2021 exams. This practice to pass will also mitigate your misconceptions you have around the AAA paper. So let's start the journey to give you the right direction. Now, I believe lots of students have lots of misconceptions about AAA paper, and those misconceptions really result in their failure in the AAA paper. Because I believe in my attendees today, there will be lots of students who might be giving AAA for the first time, and there might be many students who are repeating the AAA paper. So I need to ensure that both set of audience gets the right focus from this webinar. Now, when you look at the pass rates of the recent 5 exam sittings, There is nothing extraordinary in the pass rates. The pass rates on average for AAA moves around the early 30s. So that's not an exception if you look at this graph in front of you, with the only exception in December 20 when the passing rate improved to 35%. But that 35% among 33 and 32 seems like something very significant. But that's not significant. If you look at the pass rates of the last 5 exam sittings, on average, it's like 33% students passing the AAA paper in the first go. Now that's the big challenge. That means 1/3 students gets pass in the AAA paper in the very first exam sitting. And that's the challenge you are taking for the upcoming September 2021 exams, to be among those 1/3 students who will get through this time in the September 2021 exam. So if you concentrate on the guidance, on the techniques, and on the tips which will be given to you by your tutor over the next 5 days of this webinar, that will really be helpful for all of you to be among that 1/3 students who get pass in the very first exam sitting of AAA. So the passing rates for AAA is a challenge, and there are different reasons why students fail the AAA paper. And I'll be addressing these reasons of failure over the next 5 days on a topic by topic basis to guide you why students fail in a AAA paper. Because when you look at these low pass rates, you need to investigate the reasons behind the low pass rates. And one of the right source of investigating the reasons behind the low pass rate is the examiner reports. Because examiner reports gives you the proper constructive criticism you all need to know to overcome the failure in the AAA paper. So if you make a habit of reading the examiner reports sooner, that's wonderful. Now, you all are ideally placed because today is the 3rd of August. You have exams in the first week of September, and if I'm not wrong, it's on the 6th of September. So you have more than a month, and whatever you learn from this webinar, you will get a very good time to implement it, and you will get a very good time to reinforce it, and that would be so very good for all of you. So this webinar for AAA is taking place at a very right time because it will give you the right amount of time even after the webinar gets over to practice and to get success in the AAA paper. So let's start rolling further into this initial discussion. Now, when you look at the syllabus of the AAA paper versus the AAA paper itself, now, this is a very interesting discussion I will be doing with all of you because there might be so many students in the session today who will be going for the first exam sitting of AAA in September 2021. So should have an idea about how the syllabus of AAA connects with the 100 marks paper. Now, when you look at the AAA paper, there is a section A in the AAA paper, and this section A consists of a 50 marks question. Now, the section A is a 50 marks question, and you have one question in section A with several parts. So you get a question one in section A with like 4 parts, part A, part B, part C, part D, at times 5 parts, A, B, C, D, E. But the section A question is worth 50 marks. I'll be shedding more light on the section A question today when I start my first day proceedings shortly. But the section A question, which is the question number 1 of the paper, syllabus area D of your AAA syllabus, which is planning and audit of historical financial statement, is the mandatory area. So whenever you look at a section A question, syllabus area D is mandatory. Syllabus area D is a static syllabus area because question number 1 is set at the stage of planning. So syllabus area D cannot be tested anywhere in the paper. You can see right over here, it's written will only be tested in question 1. So you will not find the syllabus area D coming in any other question of the AAA paper. So it's a static syllabus area, it's a mandatory syllabus area, it's a must syllabus area, which you will only find in the section A. So the significant part of the section A question is syllabus area D, which is planning and the audit of the historical financial statement. So that's the focal point of the section A question. Then when you look at the section B question, in section B, you have two questions, question number 2 and question number 3. Now there are two areas, syllabus area E and syllabus area F. Now, when you look at the syllabus area E and syllabus area F, it is mentioned that they will only be tested in question 2 and question 3. Now, syllabus area 2 and syllabus area E, sorry, and syllabus area F will only be coming in section B. You will not find them anywhere else in the paper. Syllabus area E cannot come in section A. Syllabus area F cannot come in section A. They will only come in section B, just like syllabus area D. Syllabus area D only comes in section A. So you need to understand, in front of your screen, you're looking at three syllabus areas, right? D, E, F, and they are static. D is static to section A, E and F is static to section B. So syllabus area E and F will only be tested in question 3 and question 2. You will not find them anywhere else in the paper. Now, syllabus area E is the completion, review, and reporting stage, and syllabus area F is other assignments. Now, I'll be giving you another analysis on that shortly. But these are three syllabus areas which are blocked and they cannot change their position in the 100 marks paper. Now, what is left? On the right hand side of your screen, you look at the syllabus area A, you look at the syllabus area B, and you look at the syllabus area C. And that is where I have written on top of them, they can be tested anywhere in the paper. So they can be tested anywhere in the paper. So that means these are flexible syllabus areas. So three syllabus areas, syllabus area D, E, and F, they are static. They cannot change their positions in the 100 marks paper. But syllabus area A, B, C is the flexible syllabus area. They can come in section A, they can come in section B. So they are flexible, they are variable syllabus areas of the AAA paper. So that is a total of 6 syllabus areas, D, E, F, A, B, C. The final one, syllabus area G, which is known as current issues. Now, current issues only comes in the AAA paper when the examining team writes an article. Now, whenever any new article comes in ahead of any exam sitting, which is written on syllabus area G, automatically the tutor and the student comes to know, okay, this is a current issue article, so it is highly probable that it will come in the immediate next exam sitting. Now, so far, so forth, as we are preparing ourselves for September 21 exams, there is no new article to date. 3rd of August, right? Today is 3rd of August, and just before coming into the session, I checked the website of the technical articles. So no new article has been published till today. If over the next 4 days any new article comes in, I'll be updating you. So is there any relevant current issues for September 21 exams? I will be guiding you on them today. But so far, so forth, examining team has not written any new article on the current issue. Can the current issue of the previous exam settings be important for you? The answer to this question is yes. So if there was an article written in the last 3 months, if there was an article written in the last 6 months, will that still be valid for your exams in September 21? The answer to that question is yes. But is there any article written for September 21 exams so far, so forth? The answer to that is no. So current issues will only come when the examining team writes an article. So if you minus the current issues, how many syllabus areas we have in the AAA paper? We only have 6 syllabus areas in the AAA paper. Now, out of the 6 syllabus areas, 3 of them are fixed and 3 of them are variable, right? I hope you're all getting my voice right with clarity. Okay, that's great. And have all of you understood the breakup of the syllabus? So if you minus the current issues, we are left with 6 syllabus areas. 3 syllabus areas are flexible, syllabus area A, B, C, and 3 are fixed, which is syllabus area D, E, and F. So you should understand the syllabus, you should understand the paper, because that's the right way you can make a very good strategy to pass the AAA paper. So when you sit down to study, you know that I need to focus a lot on syllabus area D, E, and F because they're very essential areas. And then I need to focus on the syllabus area A, B, C because they can come anywhere in the syllabus. Yes, so far, so forth, there is no current issue for September. But can the current issue of the previous exam sittings be important for September? Yes. Right? So Tayyab Sheikh, currently no specific current issues for September, but can the current issue of June be carried forward to September? The answer to that question is yes. And Muhammad Abrar, I hope you're also getting the answer to your question as well. The June current issue, which was the exposure draft to the code of conduct, which I've even conducted in the June webinar, can that still be valid for September exams? The answer to that is yes. But any new article written in the last 2 months? No. So I hope you're all clear on that. Yes, and that exposure draft which was written in for the June exams was tested for I think 8 marks in the June exams. So that exposure draft has been tested even in the June exams. So I'll be making further clarifications on that. So when I was conducting the June webinar for ACCA, so we did the exposure draft on the day one, and I think 8 marks came on that exposure draft in the June exams. So if you want to cover the exposure draft, you can watch the day one of the June webinar, and that would give you very good understanding of the exposure draft, which was basically a current issue for June exams, but it could have a carry forward effect to September. So that is the syllabus versus the AAA paper. Now I'll be doing a more careful analysis on syllabus versus the AAA paper shortly. Now, a few last things before I guide you in a more constructive manner. We just had a view on the paper format. The Advanced Audit and Assurance exams comprise of 2 sections. Section A comprise of a 50 marks question, predominantly set at the planning stage of the audit, section D of the syllabus, whereas the section B has 225 marks question, one of which will be set at the completion stage of the completion and reporting stage of the audit. The remaining questions can be taken from anywhere in the syllabus. Now, at least, we know the 2 questions of the 100 marks paper. One question will be planning and risk. One question will be completion and reporting. The third question can be from anywhere in the syllabus. So at least we know 150 marks question, 125 marks question, but the remaining 25 marks question is a surprise. It can come from any syllabus area. So that's how you can control your emotions in the AAA paper, right? Okay, moving further. Now, when you're preparing for September 21 exams, you should have the right strategy. Now, on your screen, I am recommending you that apart from the September 21 webinar, which you are currently part of, apart from the September 21 webinar, you should also watch December 2020 webinar, You should also watch the March 21 webinar, and you should also watch the June 21 webinar. So alongside the September webinar, you should watch 3 previous webinars: December 20, March 20, and June 21, because that will give you the right exam rigor. So if you watch December 20, you watch March 21, you watch June 21, and the current one, September, that is 15 hours each webinar. So there are 4 webinars, 15 hours multiplied by 4, that is a 60-hour insight into AAA. Imagine 60 hours. That's like a proper course. That's like a proper regular course you can take from any college. Now 60 hours, and that will really change the way you look at the AAA paper. And you still have more than a month. So you cannot say we cannot watch it. You can definitely watch it because you have plenty of time to do it. You need to watch it, right? This is a very important message from the tutor that you have to watch it. So start making a timetable that when will you start watching them. If you have already watched them, then just focus on September 21. If you haven't, then start watching them. The hyperlinks of these webinars are given under, so you can just copy these hyperlinks and paste them in the browser and reach the destination. Right? So when you watch these 3 previous webinars alongside September 21, you will get a very good control of the AAA, and you will get a very good command on the AAA paper. Okay, now it's some quick feedback of the examiner, and then taking on a more specific structure of the day 1 of the webinar today. Now, some of the key feedback of the examiner. Candidates should note that accounting standards listed within the SVR syllabus are examinable in AAA, and that's very important. A lot of times student appears for AAA with weak accounting knowledge. If you have weak accounting knowledge, you will struggle in the AAA paper, particularly in the syllabus area D, which is planning, syllabus area E, which is completion and reporting. So if you want to be strong in your AAA and you want to be successful in AAA, your accounting knowledge should be up to date, and you must have given SBR either before the AAA paper or alongside the AAA paper. So if you have already given SPR and you are now planning AAA in September, that's a very good approach. Or if you are appearing for both SPR and AAA in September, that's even a very good approach. But you cannot say I'll do AAA first and I'll do SPR after. That's a very bad approach. Now, there are 2 syllabus areas which needs the accounting knowledge. I am again repeating them, right? Syllabus area D and syllabus area E. These are the only 2 syllabus areas out of the 7 syllabus areas which needs accounting knowledge. So 2 syllabus areas out of 7 needs your accounting knowledge. So if a question comes on completion and reporting, you need the accounting knowledge. If a question comes on risk, you need the accounting knowledge. So question number 1 needs the accounting knowledge, and then one of the question in section B needs the accounting knowledge. Marks are awarded at the AAA level for the application of the knowledge to a given scenario where candidates demonstrate an understanding of the issue presented. This will be my focal point over the next 5 days. I really don't understand why students go with rote learn knowledge to exam paper, AAA paper. There is no marks available in AAA for rote learning. There is no marks available in AAA for your book knowledge. It is the application to a given scenario. So if you are a student who adapts, you will pass. But if you are not adapting yourself in exam hall or in the exam context, and you're just a rigid student who just think about the bookish knowledge coming from BPP and Kaplan, and you're just trying to put the BPP and Kaplan knowledge as it is into the paper, you will never pass the AAA paper. So to pass the AAA paper, you need to be an adaptive student. You need to understand the case study. You need to understand the issues given to you in the case study, and you need to change yourself in the context of the case. So the application is the key to success, right? Not the rote learning. So if you are a rote learn student, you are a rigid student, and you just want to go with the bookish knowledge, you will never pass the AAA paper. So I'll be focusing a lot on that over the next 15 hours. Candidates should ensure they're fully conversant with the financial reporting standards they've covered in the SPR syllabus. So whatever standards you have covered in the SPR syllabus, you should be fully conversant to them to pass the AAA paper. A common feature of weaker answers in this subject is to use rote learn knowledge without the application to a scenario. Already covered that in my bullet number 2. More journal feedback of the examiner. Candidates should be able to synthesize and evaluate material. Simply listing knowledge without explaining is useless. Simply listing knowledge without explaining is useless. Students identify the problem or the issue in the case study, but then they fail to explain the problem. They fail to elaborate the problem. Now, if you are developing a point, if you're developing a point in AAA, being a manager, so at least one point, if developed properly, should be like 2 to 3 sentences. 2 to 3 sentences. So if you're developing a point, one point development should be 2 to 3 sentences, or max 4 sentences. So again, I'm saying sentences, right? I'm not saying lines. 2 to 3 lines is different. 2 to 3 sentences is different. So I hope you know the difference between a sentence and a line. So simply listing knowledge without explaining it. So I'll be guiding you over the next 15 hours how you explain a point, how you develop a point, because most of the time students don't realize how important is it to develop a point, that too like a manager. So the more you involve in the case study, the more you dig up the case study, you will be in a better position to evaluate or to explain your point to the examiner. And that's what the examiner is looking for, to give you 1 mark per good point evaluated. This is particularly important with responses relating to procedure, where the purpose of the procedure must be given. So if you're writing a procedure in the exam paper, you should write the purpose of the procedure. If you're just writing a procedure without a purpose, that's useless. And in the case of ethics, where knowing the name of the ethical threat will not be awarded in its own right, rather identifying the specific way in which the threat has arisen in the case and the implication of the threat to attract credit. So examiner is saying if you just know the name of a threat, self-interest, self-review, you will not be getting any marks till the time you justify in the context of the case why it is a self-review threat or why it is a self-interest threat, and you tell the implication of the threat to a given scenario, then you will attain credit. So see, examiner is saying marks will only be awarded to you if you evaluate something, right? So you need to develop a point like 2 to 3 sentences, right? And one sentence ends when you put a full stop. So where you put a full stop, that is one sentence, right? So 2 to 3 sentences long should be a 1 point development. Appropriate exam techniques should be developed using question practice for skill of time management, reading relevant technical articles and exam techniques article published by ACCA, and the examiner reports for each sitting. See, this is the clue of success here. And this is what I will be focusing on over the next 5 days. Right practice of the past paper. Reading examiner reports, reading examiner reports, reading the articles, the exam technique articles, the technical articles, both of them. Reading the examiner reports and the practice. I hope you can see those 4 circles: practice, technical articles, exam technique articles, and examiner reports, because that's where the success lies in. So these are journal comments of your examiner, which is very, very important to be implemented over the next 15 hours. And not on my part, on your part as a student, because you need to make the right strategy in the next 1 month to pass the AAA paper. So let's start the journey. Let's start the day one. Let's start the 15 hours journey, and let's see how you can make the right strategy over the next 15 hours to make yourself successful in the September 2021 exams. So that's bringing us to the agenda of this practice to pass session. And that's where I am starting my specific day one of the webinar. Now, the agenda of this practice to pass webinar, uh, I thought, I evaluated, I spent a lot of time before starting the webinar today, that what I should be putting in my webinar for September, because over the last 13 webinars I've conducted for ACCA Pakistan, so many things have been covered, so many things have gone in, so many things have been guided. And again, if you watch my previous 3 webinars alongside September 21, you will be in a best position to pass. So I thought, what should I bring to this webinar? So this is how I evaluated my careful agenda for this webinar. I would first be discussing some recent changes which have come into the syllabus and what it means for you. I hope you're fully aware of the recent changes in the AAA syllabus. What are those changes? Are you fully conversant with those changes? Have anyone brought to your attention those changes? So I will be covering those changes in my session today. The CBE practice platform and blank workspace, are you using it? Because as a tutor, this will be very important for me to encourage you, reinforce you that start using the practice platform and the blank workspace if you're not using it. I'll be using this in my 15 hours of webinar to give you a better perspective, a better idea of how you go about using the practice platform. Then, in terms of topics, I will be covering audit risks this time. I will be covering quality control and professional issues, very focused quality control and professional issues this time, not much focus on ethical issues because they've gone down in my previous webinars. I'll be focusing on going concerns specifically, and I will be focusing on one of the other assignments from syllabus area F, which is review of prospective financial information, and will give you a very right exam focus of that. So how will I break this into my next 5 days? This is how I have broken it down. On the day one today, I'll be looking at the recent changes. I'll be talking about the awareness about the practice platform and the blank workspace, and I'll be talking about audit risk today. If something left unattended today, I will take it to the day two tomorrow. But day two specific agenda is ethical, professional, and quality control issues. Day three specific agenda is completion and reporting. Day four agenda is going concern and data analytics. I will be reinforcing data analytics because some changes have come in the AAA syllabus. And for that context, data analytics have become really important for September 21 exams. So I'll be focusing on that on day four. And on the day five, I'll be looking at the review of the prospective financial information along with exam tips and techniques because that will be the final day. So that's how the 5 days look like. Now the day one agenda is a bit lengthy. So if something left from the day one agenda, it will automatically carry forward to the day two. And after we complete the carry forward effect, we'll start the day two then, right? So quite possible, but hopefully I could managed to complete the day one agenda right on the very first day as well. So that's bringing us to the day one, recent changes and what it means for you. Now, just before I start with the recent changes and what it means for you, I am taking on my Word file, which I use in every webinar, and I'll be sharing this with all of you. Right? I hope you can all hear me and you can all see the Word file in front of your screen now for the September 21 webinar, right? Okay, that's great. So this is the Word file I use in every webinar and each day, and that is shared with all of you on the WhatsApp group. Now, today's the day one, the 3rd of August. Let's see what we have to discuss today. Now, the objective today, we are discussing multiple things today, right? The first thing, we are discussing today is we are discussing the recent changes. We are discussing the practice platform today. And apart from that, we are also discussing audit risk today. So we have a very diversified uh, objective on the first day of the webinar. Now let's start one by one, each one of them. Now, the first thing you need to understand, when you're preparing yourself for the exams September 21, how would you go about it? Preparing for September 21, right? And I want to spend 5 minutes on that. Now, when you're preparing yourself for exams in September 21, this is what you should focus on. Number one, you should focus on number one, the technical articles. Number two, you should focus on exam technique articles. Number three, you should focus on the past papers. You should focus on the examiner answers, and you should focus on examiner reports. Now, I'll be giving you the perspective behind each one of them so that you know how will you be using it. So you can see the 5 things, right, for preparing for September 21. Let's first start with technical articles. How would you be using technical articles? Which technical articles will you be using? And how would you go about doing these technical articles in the next 1 month? Now, when you go to the website of ACCA and you look at the website where you have the technical articles available, I hope you can see on your screen the technical article website, right? So this is the page where you have the technical articles on the ACCA website. I hope you're familiar with that. And you scroll down and you start to look at the articles. Now, when you look at the articles on the website, the first 5 articles, are the exam technique articles. You can look at this, right? You can see this page here. The first 5 articles are exam technique article. Exam technique article part 1, ethics. Exam technique article part 2, risk. Exam technique article part 3, accounting issues. Exam technique article part 4, procedures. And exam technique article part 5, audit reporting. So these are 5 technique articles which is must. So when you're preparing yourself under the exam techniques articles, you need to read all 5 exam technique articles. So if you read the 5 exam technique articles, you will know the right techniques. You will know the right techniques for ethics. You will know the right techniques for risk. You will know the right techniques for writing accounting issues in AAA paper. You will know the right techniques for procedures and reporting. Now see how much paper can come under your control, because ethics, risk, accounting issues, procedures, and reporting is a fundamental part of a 100 marks paper. Exam technique article basically tells you how you write an answer. So if you want to excel in writing an answer, the exam technique article will tell you how to structure your answer. So if you really want to know how to structure your answer for ethics, for risk, for accounting issues, for procedures and reporting, please ensure that you read these 5 exam technique articles from the ACCA website. I hope you've heard it loud and clear. Now go back to the website again. And after the exam technique article gets over, the first 5, look at the 6th article after the exam techniques article. This is the exposure draft proposed revision to the code. Now, this was a current issue for June exams, and it is still valid for September exams. Even it is still valid for December exams. This is revision to the code, and as a student, you should know the revision to the code. Now, you should read this article, exposure draft to the proposed revision to code. And the good thing is, I have covered this in my previous webinar. Let me show you the link for that. When you're reading these technical articles, the first technical article you will be reading is the proposed changes to code. And the good thing is that you read it yourself, but you can also watch my webinar on this. Let me give you the hyperlink for that. See, I've already covered this in my previous webinar. Let me give you the hyperlink for that. I'm putting the hyperlink here. So this is the hyperlink, right? So you can click on this hyperlink, copy this hyperlink, and you will reach the session I done on the proposed changes to code. I think this is like 45 to 50 minutes of a session, which will really give you insights about the proposed changes to the code. So that's number one, right? Go back to the website. Group audit. Can you see the next article, group audit? In order. So this is the 7th article on the website, group audit, right? Can you all see the screen, everyone? Okay, group audit, right? The good thing is that you need to read this article, group audit, when you're preparing yourself for exams in for September 21. And the good thing is I've already covered a session on group audit on my YouTube channel. So let me put you a link for that as well. So some of the articles are there on my YouTube channel. So I'll encourage you that you regularly visit my YouTube channel because they keep posting uh, very important stuff for AAA students on it, right? So group audit, that is the hyperlink. First, read the article yourself, right? Then watch my session on YouTube for proposed changes to code and for group audit. And proposed changes to code is a current issue and it is still very relevant for exams in September 21. And it was even relevant for exams in June 21, which has already gone. Now move ahead and look at the other articles after the group audit. Now, after the group audit, you have articles. Okay, after the group audit, you have the next article, data analytics and the auditor. I will not like any student to ignore it. I will just be telling you the changes which have come in syllabus. And in light of those changes, this article has become important again. This article was published, I think, a year ago, and this article has been examined, I think, 2 times for just like 5 to 6 marks. But this article has attained importance for your exam setting even in light of the changes which has come into the syllabus. So data analytics and the auditor is the next article in order. So which is must to read for your exam setting, data analytics and the auditor. Now you will read this article yourself, and after you've read this article, you will go back to my YouTube channel, and I've covered this on my YouTube channel in terms of a session where I have spent like 50 minutes to tell student what data analytics and auditor mean for a AAA student. So the hyperlink of that is right here, data analytics and the auditor. Let me copy this and paste it over here so you can access it. So at least these 3 articles are on my YouTube channel. So after you read the PDF of these documents, you can go and watch my session and you can make your notes. So in that way, these 3 articles will be very good on your fingertips. So first read, then watch. Is that clear? First read, then watch and make your notes. Okay, now move back to the website. Now after this, there are plenty of other articles coming on the website like audit in a specialized industry, right? Then the article after that, evaluation of misstatement. I would prefer that you should know audit in a specialized industry uh, for for relevance to your exams. Evaluation misstatements, it's up to you. You want to read it or you don't want to read it. Responding to NOCLA, you should know this. So auditing in a specialized industry, responding to NOCLA, I'm putting that in my list. Audit in a specialized industry is a journal article, right? It's not confined to any topic, but if you want to know this topic, this is about practice management, syllabus area C, syllabus area C. Then you have another article, which is responding to NOCLA. Responding to NOCLA, you should read this article, please. So you should read the article responding to NOCLA. Okay, go back to the website again. Corporate governance and its impact on audit practice, it's totally up to you. You want to read it or not, I'm not recommending it. Auditing disclosures in financial statement. This is a very important article, auditing disclosure in the financial statement. So I would recommend you to read it. Auditing Disclosures in financial statement. This article will really help you in terms of the question number one when you're identifying risk of material misstatement. What are risk of material misstatement in a disclosure? What sort of risk exists in a disclosure? This article will give you guidance on that. And if the examiner asks you to make procedures on disclosures, this article will be worthwhile. So auditing disclosure is not a new article. It's been there for last 2 years now, but you should not ignore the reading of this. And the good thing is, after you read the article auditing disclosure, you can go and watch my YouTube session on it, because I think I've already covered auditing disclosure a year ago on my YouTube channel. So you can enjoy that video as well. Auditing disclosure, and this is the hyperlink. So a couple of articles I've covered on YouTube channel, and it's my habit of covering articles on my YouTube channel whenever I find time. So a couple of them have been covered on my YouTube channel, so you can benefit from them. So auditing disclosure and financial statement is another technical article you should be reading. Okay, back. Performance information in public sector. Yes, that's a good article because that really helps your syllabus area F. You should read that. Laws and regulations, you can ignore it. Audit quality, a perpetual current issue, you should read it. So the next two, uh, audit of performance information, that's must. I've already covered them in my previous webinars. When you watch the previous 3 webinars, audit quality, a perpetual current issue. This will also become the focus of my webinar tomorrow. Perpetual current issue. I will be covering this on day 2 tomorrow. Okay, professional skepticism, please don't ignore it. The importance of professional skepticism has increased in light with the syllabus changes which have come in. So please ensure that you read once this article, professional skepticism. That's very important. Using the work of internal auditors, the next one, don't ignore it. Professional skepticism, using the work of internal auditors, right? Professional skepticism, using the work of internal auditor. Please don't ignore these areas. You normally find 5 to 6 marks on such areas in AAA, so you cannot expect to lose them. Okay, auditor liability, it's up to you want to read it or not. The control environment, up to you want to read it or not. Completing the audit, it's up to you want to read it or not. Acceptance decision for audit and assurance engagement, that's very important. Acceptance decision for audit and assurance engagement. I would not recommend you to skip this. Decision, acceptance decision for audit and assurance engagement. Must to read article. I've already covered them in my previous webinar. So if you watch the previous 3, you will benefit from them. Okay. Specific aspects of auditing in a computer-based environment, you can ignore that. Analytical procedures, you can ignore that. Going concern, I would prefer that you read it because I will be covering this on my day 4 as well, and that is important. So going concern is important. I already had it on my day 4 for this upcoming webinar. So do read that going concern as well. Audit risk, leave that out because you've already covered that in exam technique article part 2. Audit in a computer-based environment, leave that out. Massaging the figures, leave that out. ISA 240, auditors and fraud, and forensic audit. These are must. ISA 240, auditor and fraud, forensic audit, that's must. Auditor report to those charged with governance, that's must. I will be covering this on my day 3. So all 3 coming in order. ISA 240, forensic and auditor reports to those charged with governance. ISA 240, sorry, just 1 minute. ISA 240, auditor and fraud, forensic audit, and then auditor report to those charged with governance, right? That's all in order, right? Let's look at the final list now. Okay, examining evidence, you can ignore it. Audit working papers, you can ignore it. Oh, that ends the list. So a couple of articles ignored and some of them put. So the final list on your screen now. Proposed changes to the code, group audit, I'm highlighting them in yellow because you can watch my YouTube sessions on them. Data analytics, you can watch my YouTube session, and auditing disclosure. So there are 4 articles in the list where the YouTube session is available. And then there is a long list of technical articles which you should not ignore if you're preparing for the September 2021 exams. Is everyone clear on that? Read them and make your notes. And if there is a YouTube session, read them, then watch the YouTube session, and then make your notes. So plenty of technical articles. If I just count them for you, if has anyone counted the list of technical articles? I've put them on the screen. Has anyone done that yet for me? 15. Okay, there are 15 technical articles I'm recommending you to read. 15 of them. And how many exam technique articles? 5 of them. So that list gets to 20. Okay, then comes to the past paper. How many past papers are you practicing? September 18, December 18, March, June 19, September, December 19, March 20, September, December 20, September, December 20, and after that, the recent one, March, June 21. So how many papers to practice? 7. And you will be excellent for your September exams. 7 papers, right? Now, of these 7 papers, how many are available on the practice platform? September 18 is available on the practice platform, so you can do it on the practice platform by logging into your practice platform. December 18 is also available on the practice platform, so you can do it on the practice platform. March, June 19 is also available on the practice platform. Then uh, the others are not. September, December 20 is available on the practice platform, and the March, June 21 is available on the practice platform. So 5 papers are available on the practice platform. September, December 19 and March, June 20. What you can do with them is you can do them on the blank workspace. I hope you have an idea of the blank workspace. So you can do them on the blank workspace. So you can download the PDF file and you can do them on the blank workspace. So at least 5 exam papers are on the practice platform. So that will give you the right amount of exam rigor. So in total, how many questions are you practicing for your September 21 exams to be among the 33% students who passed the paper? 7. Is 7 a lot? No, you have 1 month to prepare. Okay, now once you do the past papers, it comes to the final 2 things: examiner answers and examiner reports. Now, why have I written examiner answers? Because as a tutor, I never like students to read examiner answers. But then what's the purpose of writing examiner answers in my list? Understand the purpose. Understand the purpose. And I'll be giving you the practice platform link and how to use it shortly. Don't be worried about it. That's part of my 15 hours. Examiner answers. You should read examiner answers for the marking scheme only. You should read the examiner answers for the marking scheme only, not for the full answers. A lot of time, students read the full answers. Why am I stopping you from reading the full answers? The reason is, if a student read full answers, the student get distracted with the length of examiner answer and expect to write and expect that he or she should write that much to pass. That much to pass. Even though the examiner has very clearly written in the examiner reports and even in the examiner answers that these are tutorial guidance. Examiner answers are lengthy. Examiner covers every point in the case study to give you guidance that you could have written this, you could have written this, you could have written this, you could have written this. But examiner is asking you that you should write within the number of marks available. For example, if there is a question on audit procedures, right, for 5 marks. Now 5 marks of audit procedure means that you have to write 5 procedures. Now when you look at the examiner answer must have written 10 procedures. And you say, okay, for 5 marks answer, I should write 10 procedures. That's wrong, because examiner answer is a tutorial guidance. Every time examiner will write more to give you guidance. Examiner is telling you that these are the 10 procedures which could had been developed. But how many you have to develop? You have to look at the number of marks in exam. So that is the reason I normally discourage students not to read the full answers. Because if you read the full answer and you are a bad student, you will easily get carried away with the examiner answer. You will easily get distracted with the examiner answer. So only read the marking scheme, because that's the most wonderful thing you can reconcile with. I think I was also clear on this in my last webinar, that whenever you write an answer, whenever you write an answer, check your answer points with examiner points in the marking scheme. See, in the marking scheme, not in the answer, right? Check your answer point. Check your answer point with the examiner answer points in the marking scheme to see how much tally. How much tally? If 50% or more got tally, that's excellent. Read this point. Read this point, all of you. Whenever you write an answer, check your answer points. Check your answer points with the examiner points. I'm not saying answer, examiner points in the marking scheme. Where you get the examiner points? You get the examiner points in the marking scheme. I'll be demonstrating that today and tomorrow and on every day to see how much tally. If 50% or more get tally, that's excellent, because 100% will never tally. Examiner says, even if you write a point which is not in my answer, and that is a valid point, you have justified it, you will get credit for that. I will show you that today and on every day, that this is the statement written by the examiner in the marking scheme, that even if you write a point which is not part of the marking scheme, but that is a valid point, that is a justifiable point, you will be rewarded credit for that. Is that clear to all of you? So how will you compare your examiner? How will you compare your answer? Will you compare your answer with the examiner answer, or will you compare your point with the examiner point? Is everyone clear on that? So it's a point versus point comparison, right? It's a point versus point comparison, not an answer versus answer. Because see, if I write an answer, if you write an answer, our answers could be different, but our points could match. Suppose I write a point, self-review threat. You write a point, self-review threat. The point should match. Now, the way I wrote self-review threat or the way you wrote self-review threat, will that be same? Tell me. The way I wrote self-review threat, the way you wrote self-review threat, will that be the same? No. But will the point match? Did I had self-review? Did you had self-review? Was the point matching? So it's a point versus point matching, right? It's not an answer versus answer matching. Because if you match answer with answer, you will get demotivated for September exams. And you will say, no, I cannot pass the AAA paper. Then how the student pass the AAA paper? The 33% students who pass the AAA paper are among you, right? Someone among you will pass it. Someone among you will pass it this time in September. So that someone is a normal student. That someone is the one who is listening to the tutor very carefully. So I hope you got the relevance of examiner answer. So I would prefer that for marking schemes, only uh, review latest, only review the latest 3 papers. Because if you look at the old papers for marking scheme, you will get to know the old marking scheme, because marking scheme gets revised after a certain time. So I would prefer that to be on the safe side. Only review the latest 3 papers for the marking scheme, right? For point versus point matching, you can see all the 7 past paper answers. So for the point versus point matching, you can review all 7 answers of the 7 past papers recommended, But for the marking scheme, to know the right marking scheme, only review the latest 3. I would not prefer you go back September 18. I would not prefer you go back September 18. Not at all. Uh, Ananya, I would not prefer you go back. 7 papers, do them in an excellent manner. Do them in an excellent manner, and you would pass the paper. Okay, examiner reports. I will tell you how to read examiner reports from today onwards, but I would prefer that you read examiner report of each single of each single 7 papers recommended above. Of each single 7 papers recommended above. So September 18, download the examiner report. March, June 19, download the examiner report. Read examiner report of every single paper recommended above. Right? Is that clear? What is the value of examiner report? What is the significance of examiner report? You will get to know in the next 15 hours. What is the value and what's the significance? So for that, watch the next 15 hours and you will really get to know the value and significance, and you will really be amazed that we should start reading all the 7 examiner reports of all the 7 papers you're practicing. Right? Is that clear to all of you? So let's start the journey now. So this is how you should be preparing yourself for September. 15 technical articles, some of them on my YouTube channel. Examine techniques article 5, past papers 7, examiner answers, point versus point matching. You can review all the 7 answers, but for the marking scheme, only the 3 latest papers. Examiner reports, each past paper has an examiner report, so download it and read it. No, never practice past papers below September 18. Start from September 18, Zishan, and go ahead. Okay, let's start the day 1 now. Okay, can all of you see the PowerPoint presentation back on your screen? We're starting with the day 1 agenda, recent changes and what it means for you. How many of you are aware of the recent changes in the AAA syllabus? Because ACCA must have corresponded with you, and ACCA must have emailed you the document of the changes in different strategic level papers. You must have got that communication from ACCA. You cannot deny that. Okay, if you are not aware, because you don't visit the ACCA website, you don't even bother to read the emails ACCA send you. That's a big problem with student community. They are least bothered to open an email coming from ACCA, except for if that relates with something of exam fees, or something of an exam center, or something of an exam entry. Otherwise than that, they are least bothered of reading the journal emails coming from ACCA. So ACCA has emailed you the changes which have come in exam papers, but you were least bothered as a student to read them. So it was my responsibility to do that with you. Recent changes. There are 3 syllabus areas where changes have come in: D1, D2, and G2. Now you know syllabus area D, whether it's D1 or D2. Syllabus area D relates with planning and risk, and syllabus area G relates with current issue. I hope you are fully aware of that. I just covered that when I was covering the paper format with you. So G is a current issue, D is planning and risk. Let's see what changes have come in D1, D2, and G2, and you're fully conversant with the changes. They're not big changes. No, nothing of a nightmare, nothing substantial, nothing that you should be worried about. And you should be, oh, the changes have come into the AAA paper. What should I do now? 1 month to go. They're not the changes like such you should be worried about. They're not the changes like such that it should bring a nightmare for you. They're just some adjustments into the paper. Let's find out the changes into the paper. Now, first of all, D1, syllabus changes, what it means for you. Learning outcome D1 in relation to evaluation of risk requires you to evaluate and prioritize risk. You are all very familiar that in the question number 1, the examiner asks you to evaluate a business risk, right? Or evaluate an audit risk, or evaluate a risk of material misstatement. Are you all familiar with that? Right? So when you're all familiar with evaluation of risk, what is the change? The change is learning outcome D1 in relation to evaluation of risk require you to evaluate and prioritize risk. Examiner can ask you to prioritize the risk starting from September 21 exams. How would you prioritize risk? Day 1 today will give you guidance on that, because I will be doing a question on risk with you today, right? So I will tell you how would you prioritize the risk in line with the changes coming into the syllabus area D1. So evaluate the risk, but while you are evaluating the risk, you should be capable of prioritizing the risk. What does prioritizing risk mean, and how would you do it as a student in the actual exam? So are you concerned about it? So I will be doing it today, right? Don't be worried about it, right? Next. This reflects the requirement of the ISA 315 revised around the determination of significant risk in relation to the spectrum of inherent risk. So examiner would now use the terminology, not sure, but will start to use it. I'm not sure will the examiner use this terminology right from the September 21 exams. It might be examiner use this terminology from the December 21 exams, but you should start becoming familiar to the terminology known as significant risk, or you should start becoming familiar with the terminology prioritizing risk in your question number 1. Now, ISA 315 now requires the auditor to prioritize the risk, now requires the auditor to identify significant risk which are in the significant risk in the upper spectrum of inherent risk. You all know inherent risk, right? But some of the inherent risk are more important. How would the auditor know, and how would the student know in the exam paper that this is a more important inherent risk? There are so many inherent risks in the question number 1, but how would you prioritize that this is a more important inherent risk? How would you prioritize this is a more significant inherent risk given to me by the examiner? So I would be giving you a very good insight into that today shortly. Question may ask, question may ask for a significant business risk or a significant ROM or a significant audit risk to ensure that you are focusing and you are prioritizing risk. So as a student, examiner wants to see that as a student, do you know how to prioritize risk? As a student, do you know how to uh, find a significant risk? So I will be giving you a very good understanding of that shortly, because my subject matter today is risk. So I will be telling you how you can reflect the changes in the syllabus area D1 on the day 1. So day 1 will cover the syllabus area changes coming in D1. D2. Is everyone clear with the syllabus area D1, the changes? So in the syllabus area D1, you just need to focus on prioritizing the risk, finding the significant risk, and I will be doing an exercise on that shortly. Is everyone clear with D1? Should we move to D2 now? Syllabus changes. And will I be covering the D1 on day 1? Will I be covering the D1 on day 1? Yes. D2. D2. The learning outcome in relation to automated tools and techniques, particularly data analytics, have been extended this year. Particularly data analytics have been extended this year. So is the examiner saying that the ACCA examining team has given a strong focus of to data analytics this year? So do you expect something of data analytics coming to papers in September 21, December 21, March 22? Because ACCA examining team has increased the exam rigor around data analytics for the upcoming exam sittings. Because data analytics has now become a very relevant tool in the audit industry. 1 year ago, the examining team wrote an article on data analytics. And I just mentioned you to read the article data analytics. And I even mentioned you that on the day 4 of this webinar, I will be giving you a very important session on data analytics. Is everyone clear on that? Is it part of my agenda of this webinar, day 4, to give you a very good insight of data analytics and how data analytics could be tested in your September exams? So please don't miss the day 4 because I will be covering the changes. I will be covering the changes D2 on day 4. So D2 comes on day 4, right? D1 comes today. D2 comes on day 4. Is everyone clear on that? So how can data analytics comes in the paper? Already there is an article on data analytics. I've already recommended you to read it. This is the hyperlink. The introduction of the learning outcome D2 requires the ability to evaluate and interpret the results generated from these techniques, both at the planning stage and at the stage of collecting evidence. So examiner is saying that I might test data analytics either in question number 1, planning, or I might test data analytics at the stage of collecting evidence. Now we know stage of collecting evidence is audit procedures, and audit procedures also comes in the question number 1. So that means if examiner test data analytics, it would be more relevant to the 50 marks question, the question number 1, because both the topics are part of the question number 1. So can we find that in the September 21 exams, in the question number 1, there is some results of data analytics given to you like a dashboard, and you need to evaluate the dashboard in terms of uh, the changes coming in the financial data. You're familiar with the examiner giving you the last year numbers and current year numbers in the question number 1? Are you all familiar with that? Are you all familiar with examiner giving you the financial statements of the last year and the current year in the question number 1 and sometime ask you to perform the analytical procedures? Are you all familiar with that? Right? So quite possible that examiner, instead of giving you the financial statements, gives you a picture of a dashboard which has been constructed out of data analytics, where auditor has performed data analytics and auditor has found some results uh, through data analytics about sales, about profit, about expenses, and examiner wants you to study those results and find the risk. I think if I'm not wrong, in the ICAEW papers, they are already using the data analytics dashboard as part of the audit and assurance paper. And I believe ACCA would exactly do the same. But ICAEW papers are not publicly available, right? But ICAEW is doing that practice for the last 1 year or so now. So quite possible that the examiner gives you a dashboard picture in question number 1 in which the results are given to you and you need to interpret the results. See, read the bullet number 3 again. The bullet number 3 says the introduction of the learning outcome D2 requires the ability to evaluate and interpret the results generated. So will the examiner give you the results generated in the exam and you need to evaluate them and you need to interpret them? Is that so? Is everyone getting the perspective? If you read the bullet number 3, line number 1, it says ability to evaluate and interpret the results. So examiner gives you the results, right, in question number 1. the financial statements. But this time, examiner might give you the results in a different way, in a different manner. And you need to evaluate the results, whether there is a risk of understatement or overstatement, whether the results are increasing or the results are decreasing. Is there any potential understatement in the results, or is there any potential overstatements in the result? You are capable of that, right? That's not new. You know that question number one requires to perform analytical procedures. You know that the question number one gives you the financial data, but the way the financial data is given might change in from September exams. Is that clear to all of you? And I will be specifically focusing on the way it will change on the day 4. So please watch the day 4, right? So the last thing, you may be presented with the results of these techniques in a variety of formats and asked to consider the results. See, you may be presented with the results. Examiner always gives you results, right? So you may be presented with the results of these techniques in a variety of formats. Now, you are familiar with the format like the last year financial statement and the current year financial statement. So this time, examiner might give you the results in a different format. But what you need to do, looking at the results, whatever the format is, you need to utilize the results, or you need to consider the results in terms of finding the risk. So what can be a different way? What can be a different way in which the results will be given to you? You are habitual of looking at the results like a current year financial statement, like a prior year financial statement. But let's see what the format change means here. Arsalan, we don't have any such format changes yet because September 21 exams will be the first one. So examiner has not given us anything to know what the format would look like. But that would be first time in September 21 exams. And again, Arsalan, I'm very clear that might not be that the September 21 student gets a new format. It could be December 21 students. So nothing to worry about, right? And I will be giving you a very proper guidance as close as possible on my day 4. So is everyone clear with the D2? Is everyone clear with the D2? So is D2 something new, or is D2 something old, but the way it will be tested will be new? It's an old requirement which will be brought into a new perspective. And even the D1, in the D1, it is an old requirement, but what is extra in D1? The extra in D1 is significant risk, prioritize risk. So that's not difficult, right? Sania, it's quite possible examiner introduce a new specimen exam because the format of paper has not changed, right? Question 1, question 2, question 3. It's only the outlook of the question number 1 which has changed. If examiner gives you the results of data analytics, so it's quite possible examining team comes with a new specimen exam and then start to test it. That's also possible. So it's like 50-50 that whether you get the new outlook in September 21 or you will not get the new outlook in September 21, right? So nothing to worry about, right? And Ruth, I will be coming to your answer. That's very good, interesting finding you are sharing, and I'll be looking into it, right? Okay, last G2. Now G2 is a current issue, right? Examiner is saying in the current issue changes, additional learning outcomes have been added to the current issue section of the syllabus. Now we know if anything has been added in the current issue section, we know current issue section is only examinable if the examining team writes an article. So have the examining team wrote any article on the additions in the current issues? No. If they write it in the next 1 week, will that be examinable in September? Yes. So the rule for current issue is very simple. If anything has been added to current issue, we should not be worried about, because if an article is written on any new changes in current issue, then only it will come to your September exams, right? Is that clear? So additional learning outcomes have been added to the current issue section in relation to the audit reforms and the impact of the global events on audit practices. So it's quite possible examining team comes with an article in the next few weeks or months about audit reforms and how audit reforms impact the audit practice and the impact of the global events like COVID on the audit practice. But should we expect something to come in September exams from audit reforms and impact of global event? No. Till the time, till the time the examining team writes an article on it. So is that a safe journey for September? So suppose in the next 6 days from now, an article comes on audit reforms. Will it become important for September exams? Yes. Suppose in the next six days from now, an article comes on the impact of COVID or impact of global events on audit industry. Will that become important for September 21 exams? The answer is yes. But currently, even though it has been added, are they important? No. So should the student go on the Google and search audit reforms? No. Should the student go on the Google and search impact of the global events on audit? No. Because we know the examiner practice is to publish an article, then ask you. So should we be worried about the syllabus changes in G2 for September exams unless and until an article comes in? Right? So should we be worried about syllabus changes in G2 unless and until a new article comes in? No. And if a new article comes in, during my webinar, I'll do a session on that. And if it comes after my webinar, I'll put it on my YouTube channel, right? And so should we be worried about the changes in D1 and D2 only? Should we be worried about the changes in D1 and D2 only then? And am I covering the changes D1 and D2 in my webinar? Again, D1 is on day 1 and D2 is on day 4. And we should not be worried about G2 unless a new article comes in. Right? Is everyone clear about the changes? If you are not aware of the changes, have you been aware of it now? So are they like nightmare changes? Are they changing the structure of the paper? Are they changing the format of the paper? Are they changing something unusually in the question in the AAA paper? No, it's just that instead of evaluating the audit risk, examiner might ask you evaluate the significant audit risk. That is it. And how would you identify the significant risk? I will be guiding you today, right? And the financial results presented in question number 1 could be presented in a different format. We'll be discussing that on the day 4. So is that something drastic changes? Is that like a 360-degree change of the AAA paper? Everyone, are you all clear? Javeria, the syllabus area H has been added to all strategic level exams, whether it is SPL, SPR, AAA, APM, AFM, every paper, because that relates to your practice platform. So that's not a syllabus area, that's only the techniques of using the practice platform. So that's not a change, right, Javeria? That's just a syllabus area which has been added to every strategic paper of ACCA from SPL to AAA. That is just how the student should use the practice platform. That is it, right? Okay, now it's time for a break, the first one. And right after the break, we'll start with the specific topic, which is the practice platform. And we'll start with a question on audit risk. So audit risk question using the practice platform. So I will be giving you the awareness of the practice platform right after the break. And I will be guiding you about how you attempt a question on practice platform. And the question we will be attempting after that is a question number 1 from the March-June 21 exams. So please be back from the break. Just let me confirm you the time for the break. It's like 5 minutes short of 10. So please be back to the webinar by like 10:15 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time, right? You have a break. Let me write that in the chat box. Break till 10:15 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. Has everyone noted that? But please ensure that the last 1 hour and 15 minutes will be a very important part because I will be practicing the March-June 2021 exams. Question number 1 on audit risk using the practice platform, right? So how long the break is? Uh, Ed, Edgar, it's still 10:15 p.m. So that's like 20 minutes, right? I've sent this message to all of you. Have you got the message for break, everyone? Okay. So off to a break. I'm just muting myself. Uh, if you can just drop the feedback about the first part of the day one today, uh, in terms of effectiveness of the webinar. Have you got to know something different, new, important in the first 90 minutes of the webinar today? Has it benefited you, helped you in some way or the other? Okay, thank you so very much for that feedback. Off to a break, everyone. Have a cup of tea or a coffee, come back fresh. The last 75 minutes will be very insightful. So off to a break. I'm just muting myself and I'll resume back at 10:15 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. Thank you. Okay, welcome back everyone. I hope you can all hear me. We are just like a minute away from the break end time. So I just want to check my voice getting through to all of you before we can resume the live session again. We're just a minute away from that. And just give me an opportunity to answer some of the questions. Adil Hussain is asking, do we expect any theoretical questions relating to these changes? Adil, no, because the changes in D1 and D2 are not theoretical changes, right? But yes, if a current issue comes in, we do expect theoretical discussions on current issues. But the syllabus changes D1 and D2 are not theoretical changes, right? And another student is asking a question, keys in, that what about the revision kit? See, I don't recommend revision kit at this point in time when you're 1 month away from exams. I think just a good practice of 7 past papers as guided to you in the session today will be good enough, right? So we're just few seconds away from the start of the session again, the live session, where we'll be discussing the March June 21. Rohit, that's quite possible. That's quite possible that this could happen. So I will be covering all that in day 4. So I'm just keeping that on hold, but your perspective is very right. Okay, so the time is up. The break has ended. We are resuming back with the last 75 minutes of the session now. Day 1 of the AAA Practice to Pass for September 21 exams. And we are now focusing on the main topic of day 1, which is audit risk. And we're taking a look into the most recent paper, March June 21, question number 1. Now, if anything of the agenda gets left by the end of the day 1, it will get carry forward on day 2, and that's the way it will be every day till the time we complete the webinar on the 5th day. Because on the first day, you need to talk so much and you need to discuss so many things about the paper that normally the main agenda gets unaccomplished and it gets carried forward to the day 2. So let's see how much we can complete in the next 75 minutes and where we can reach down. Now, uh, first of all, quickly, if you look at this practice platform awareness, I've already given the practice platform awareness in my previous webinar, the June 21 webinar. On the first day of the webinar, I have shared the hyperlink here. So I would prefer that all of you click on this hyperlink or copy this hyperlink and reach the destination and watch my day 1 of the June 21 webinar, because it will give you all the do's and don'ts of the practice platform. I don't want to repeat those do's and don'ts this time because I want to focus on practicing on the platform. And when I'm practicing on the platform, I will keep giving you the tips and techniques. So I don't want to get to some very basic things which I've already covered on my in my previous webinar. So I'm just not utilizing my time again on that. So June 21, day 1, the hyperlink is on your screen. So if anyone is unaware of the practice platform and have no idea of how to use it, you can explore this in the next 24 hours or whenever you wish to. Now, this is some of the benefits I believe you have of a computer-based exams or a practice platform, and I just want to go over them quickly before we just get to the March June 21 question number 1. You need to log into the practice platform using your My ACCA login, and the hyperlink is given to you where you can just click on and reach to the place where you need to log into the practice platform, the blue hyperlink. Uh, then you have the papers available on the practice platform. I will be guiding you about that, the bullet number 3. You should be familiar with the workspace given to you by ACCA so that when you go on your actual day of exam on the 6th of September, you exactly know the practice platform. If you're unaware of the practice platform, you will struggle on the actual day of exam. There are a lot of functionalities in the practice platform in this bullet here, and this bullet is of interest, and every day over the next 15 hours I will be telling you about the functionalities of the practice platform, how you use the highlighter or the scratch pad or the response options given to you, how to use the calculator, how you use the shortcuts like the copy paste commands. So there are a lot of functionalities which I'll try to cover every day. So by the end of the 15 hours, you will be very good on the functionalities of the practice platforms. Uh, how you go about using multiple windows, because I think that's a very big challenge, opening windows and closing windows, if anyone has used the practice platform before. So you have to manage a lot of windows on one screen, and you need to open some windows, you need to close some windows. So at times it becomes a challenge. So is there any good methodology of that? I will be guiding you about that as well. And then some of the benefits of the computer-based exams: the copy paste, undo, redo, formatting, and speed over pen and paper exams. So if you have a real good typing speed, you use the Microsoft Word in Journal, you type things on Microsoft Word in Journal, you must be having a good typing speed. So there are lots of benefits over pen and paper exams. You can copy, you can paste, you can undo, you can redo, you can format your paper very well, you can have a bold command, italic command, underline command, and that can really brings a very good professionalism to your formatting of the paper as well. So I will be focusing on the last three bullets here every day, so that you know how to use the functionalities of the practice platform, right? But how to log in, how to use it, the basic features, the do's and don'ts. Please watch my day one of the June 21 webinar. The hyperlink has already been shared with you in the presentation. So please watch that. So I'm not wasting time on that in this particular webinar, right? You can carry your own calculator to the exam hall. That's permissible. So if you're not comfortable with the on-screen calculator, that's not an issue at all, right? The blank workspace, I'll be using that on the day 4, because I will be attempting a paper on day 4 using the blank workspace. So if you need to know what is a blank workspace, what are benefits of using a blank workspace, so you will have an idea of that, even though I've covered that on my day 1 of the June 21 webinar. So I will be guiding you about that in the next 15 hours, nothing to worry about. So I've just guided you the amount of questions available on the practice platform, and there are certain questions which are not available on the practice platform, so you have to do them on the blank workspace. I have already made that thing very clear. So when you go to the practice platform is divided into the past exam library, where you have the 2 recent questions. Then you have the practice exams on the practice platform, 3 practice exams, one from September 18, one from December 18, and one from March 19. And then you have 1 specimen exam given to you in the practice platform. So that's the maximum amount of practice you can do on the practice platform. Now that's bringing us to the main topic of day 1, planning and risk assessment. A look inside question number 1. And that's where I want to spend the remaining time of the webinar today, which is approximately more than 1 hour. And let's see if we need to utilize the day 2 for planning and risk as well. Important area, right? Now, when we look inside this particular topic, planning and risk assessment, and the agenda, you need to watch my previous webinars, some of the recommendable webinars. I've covered the risk. Every webinar, I have covered risk assessment on my day 1. So I'm recommending to you that you should watch my webinar for March 21 here, June 21 here, then December 20 and June 21. If you want to be familiar with business risk, because I'm not covering business risk this time, so you can watch my December 20 and June 21 webinar, so you are good on business risk. And if you want to be good on audit risk and risk of material misstatement, which I'm even covering today, you can still watch my previous 2 webinars, March and June, and alongside September 21 day 1, which is today, and you will be excellent on audit risk and risk of material misstatement. Particularly in the June 21 webinar last time, I used the spreadsheet when performing analytical procedure. So because I was using the practice platform, so I did guided student about how you can make use of the spreadsheet given to you on the practice platform while performing analytical procedures. So you can watch the June 21 if you want to know how to use a spreadsheet when performing analytical procedures if a question asks for. So plenty of guidance already there. Let's see what extra I can do for you in this September 21 webinar. So the agenda. 3 articles. I've given you a long list of articles, the 15 articles plus the 5 exam techniques articles. So from that, on day one, I would recommend that these articles are the must. These articles are already in the handout section. You can download them and take a printout. These are 3 articles to read for day one: planning and audit of financial statement, exam technique article part 2, and exam technique article part 3. They're all available in the handout section. On the first day, I'll be doing the analysis of the examiner do's and don'ts by reading the very latest examiner report with you, which is a March June 21. I'll be doing this very latest paper, March June 21, today with you. And I would expect that you will do the September December 20 question number 1 as your homework. So you will be taking this as your homework on the basis of the guidance given to you from March June 21 exams. So your home assignment will be the September December 20 question, plus you will watch the previous webinars and every recommendation given to you by the tutor. So let's start the journey. Let's start with March June 21 question, and let's take on the practice platform now. So when you go to your practice platform page, this is right in front of your screen, right? And this is the page where it says login to the practice platform, right? I can share this link with you where you can say login into the practice platform. See, it's sent to all of you. You click log into the practice platform and you put your details, and the moment you put your details, you come to this page in front of your screen. Now this is the main screen of the practice platform where all papers are available. You can now see that on your screen. A lot of you must be familiar with the screen, right? This is the screen in front of you, which gives you the catalog of the papers on the right hand side. On the right hand side, you can see the catalog. In the catalog, you can see the advanced audit and assurance. So you click the catalog, advanced audit and assurance, and in that, you can see the resources available to you. You can see the blank workspace given to you. Then you can see the international, Ireland, and UK. So I'm doing the international, so I click on international, and under the international, I'll see ACCA official resources, past exam libraries, practice exams, and specimen exams. So I'm opening the past exam library. In the past exam library, there is a March June 21 question available. So I'll just assign that question. So you click on the button assign, March June 21, you click on the button assign, and it gets assigned on the left hand side of the screen. So when you look at the left hand side of the screen, you can see the self assigned materials, and in the self assigned material, that paper you have assigned yourself has been coming here. So I'll click on the paper and it says resume. Why it says resume? Because I was already working on it. If you do it for the first time, instead of resume, it will say start. So for me, it's resume. So I'll click on it, resume, and the practice platform opens for me. Now, this is the first screen of the practice platform, which you can see right in front of your screen now. Section A, and this is the main screen of section A question. I'll click on the next, and I will be taken to the question number 1. Now, this is the main screen of question number 1, which you can now see in front of you. And you need to become familiar with this today. Every time you log into the practice platform, you open the question number 1. This is the main screen of the question number 1. This is exactly what you will be seeing on the day of your exam as well. So you need to become familiar with it. Now, whenever you look at this dashboard in front of you, where on the left hand side you can see a panel of exhibits, requirements, and response option, and on the right hand side you can see this main screen, which I'm highlighting. This is the main screen, right, on the right hand side, right? And on the left hand side you can see the panels in which exhibits, requirements, and response option is coming in. Now, how to use it? Now, the first thing I would suggest, if you want to save time, this in the exam, let me do one thing for you. Just give me 1 minute. This requirement over here for 50 marks, it's useless you open it, because the requirements, the specific requirements you have to do in the exam paper is given to you in the partner email here. Look at the exhibit number 1, the partner email. So this requirement where I put a cross is useless, because this will only tell you there are 46 technical marks and there are 4 professional marks, and you need to write the answer in a briefing note format. You know as a AAA student that the question number 1 is written in a briefing note format, so that's of no interest to you that you open up the requirement for 50 marks. You can save your time in exam paper. So no need to look into the requirement 50 marks, just cross it. The first thing where you will get to know the requirements, what you need to do for 50 marks, is the partner email. So that's very important for you, right? Now, what will you do first of all in exam? The first of all, what you will do in exam is that you will open up this response option. Can all of you see the response option on the left hand side of the screen? There are 2 response options, briefing note and spreadsheet. Can all of you see that? Right? So you click on the briefing note response option, because the question number 1 is to be answered on a briefing note. Spreadsheet will only be used if the question asks you to use the analytical procedure. If the question is not asking you to use the analytical procedure, then don't use the spreadsheet. I hope you have heard this loud and clear. How to use the spreadsheet? I've already covered that on the day 1 of the webinar of June 21. So you can watch the June 21 webinar to understand how to use the spreadsheet, because I used a question on June 21 which involve analytical procedure. Currently, I'm doing a question which does not involve analytical procedure, so there is no relevance of using the spreadsheet. So I'll just click on the briefing note, and the moment I click on the briefing note opens up. Now, the moment the briefing note open up, you can just drag the screen, enlarge the screen as you want. Now see, you have a briefing note open. Now, even before you read the question in exam hall, you know the format of the briefing note. I've guided you about the format of the briefing note so many times in my previous webinar. So you just open the document briefing note even before reading the question, and you write over here the heading briefing note, to from date, to from subject, to from subject. You will not be penalized for grammar and spelling, so don't be worried about it. Briefing note to from subject, and then you say introduction, because that's how you start the briefing note. Under the introduction, you have, you're just assuming there is a requirement A, there is a requirement B, there is a requirement C, or there is a requirement D, for example, because mostly we have D requirements in the question number 1, and then you put a conclusion. See, you prepared a draft of a briefing note even before you read the requirement. So the moment you enter your practice platform, whether at home or in the real exam, and you open the question number 1, so the very first thing you will click in the question number 1 is what? The response option. Which response option? Briefing note. And you will structure the briefing note in the first 1 minute quickly. You will put the heading briefing note, to from subject, introduction, A, B, C, D. There might be E, but that will only come to know once you open the requirement. So A, B, C, D on the safe side, and a conclusion. Now you've ready the briefing note format, right? Now, once you wrote the briefing note, I need some space above briefing note for my rough working. So I'll just click enter, 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 and I get some space above the briefing note. Over here, I'll write rough working, and I'll delete the rough working after I've end my answer. See, if you use a scratch pad, you have to move between 2 windows, scratch pad window and a briefing note window. So I think that wastes a lot of time in exam. So I would prefer that above the briefing note, you can write rough working. If you want to do some rough workings, you can do above the briefing note. Once you end the question number 1, you can simply delete the rough working. Is everyone clear? So instead of using the scratch pad, and you open 2 windows, one scratch pad window, one briefing note window, and get confused, So it's better don't use Scratchpad. Just make a rough working on the briefing note, and you can delete the rough working after you have completed your answer. That will save a lot of time for you. I will be demonstrating how will I use the rough working and delete it later today. Is that clear to all of you? Okay. Because you can delete things right in a computer based exams. That's also a benefit, right? No. You have to delete the rough working, right? You cannot leave it. You cannot leave it, right? So rough working, delete it. So please ensure you delete the rough working, right? Is that clear? Farzana. Okay. Let's start the journey. Okay, so first thing first, you open the briefing note, you set the briefing note. Right now, after you set the briefing note, you put this window cross and you come to the main screen. Now the main screen on the right hand side just tell you just give you a basic information, the name of your audit firm, the name of the client, and just tell you the number of exhibits available. So I think this information should be read within 1 minute because it's most quick, easy information. See, I'm reading the screen on the right hand side. It is the 1st of July. So you can highlight that. It's the 1st of July. Use the highlighter. It's the 1st of July. You are a manager in the audit department of Chief and Company. You are assigned to the audit of Pale Company, which has a financial year end of 30th of September. So the financial year end is 30th of September, and this is the 1st of July. So planning starts before the year end, right? So that's perfectly fine. So we are currently on the 1st of July, 3 months before the year end, because we are at the stage of planning. And the name of the client is Pale Company. Okay, Pale Company manages timber plantation. Its core business being the management of timber plantation and the production and sale of range of timber products. It is not currently a listed company. So currently it's not listed. So it's not a listed company currently. Okay, that's important information. The following exhibits are available on the left hand side of the screen. So examiner is saying the exhibits are available on the left hand side of the screen, so we can directly see them, and that ends the screen on the right hand side. So the screen on the right hand side always tell you the name of the audit firm, the name of the client, the financial year end, whether it is a listed company, whether it is not a listed company. And then the examiner tells you that the list of exhibits is given on the left hand side of the screen. This will hardly take 1 minute in the exam to read it. Then you come on the left hand side of the screen where you have the exhibits, 5 exhibits given to you. Always, the first exhibit will be the partner email because that will contain the requirements, what you need to do, A, B, C, D. So if you want to see the A, B, C, D, that's in the partner email. Every time, the second exhibit will be the background information. Every time, the third exhibit will be the financial statement. Now, sometime examiner, instead of giving you the exhibit 3 as a financial statement, might give you an exhibit like notes from the meeting, and then the financial information gets to the exhibit number 4. But I think it's quite common when you see the past paper. The first exhibit is the email of the partner. The second is the background information. Mostly in the third exhibit, the examiner gives you the financial statement, and uh, the other exhibits, like the exhibit 4 and the 5, are then very specific exhibits where the examiner might ask you to do something extra. So the first 3 or the first 4 exhibits mostly are default exhibits, and that should be known to a student. Now, when you open the first exhibit, partner email, now, this is a partner email, and the partner is telling you what you should do. The moment you open the partner email, move it on the right hand side of the screen and simultaneously open the briefing note. Simultaneously open the briefing note and just reduce the size of the briefing note screen as well. So keep the briefing note screen on the left and keep the partner email on the right. Now, when you're reading the partner email, you can simultaneously start to fill in the briefing note, right? Now, see, at the start of the partner email, it says to the manager from the partner, subject audit planning. So I can copy this in my briefing note because I will be giving the response to the partner email. So the from will become the to and the to will become the from. So it's to the manager. So I copy to the manager. So to the manager will now become from the manager in my briefing note. So I copy paste. Control V, Control C. It's from Harvey Rubus, the audit partner. So from will now become the to because I'm replying to the partner email. So from will become the to. So I'll just copy the from here. Harvey Rubus, the audit engagement partner. Control C, and I go to the briefing note and say Control V. See, subject subject will remain the same because I'm responding to the partner email. So when you respond to an email, the subject never changes. So you copy the subject, audit planning for Pale Company, Control C, and you paste it in the subject in the briefing note, Control V. You don't write the date in the briefing note, so ignore the date and you come to the introduction. See, I just copied the to from subject, and that is the structure of the briefing note. Now, the partner is saying hello, and then he says, I have provided you with some information which will help you in planning the audit for the Pale company for the financial year end of 30th of September. As you know, Pale is a new audit client of our firm. Oh, Pale is a new audit client of our firm. That's an important information for me. Now, I know, okay, just 1 minute, right? Even before you read this hello, just look at the number of requirements you have to do, A, B, C, D. So can I just place that A, B, C, D in my briefing note? In A, I need to do the in A, I need to do the business risk. I just copy business risk from here, C, and I paste it under the introduction, business risk. In B, I need to do the audit risk. I copy in the B, audit risk. In C, I need to do the audit procedures in relation to the changes in fair value of the timber plantation. So I copy that C and I paste it here. Okay, in the D, I have to do explain the ethical issues and other planning implications which arise from the phone call in Exhibit 5. So I copy this and I paste it here in the D. After business risk, I'll write the marks 10. So I know how many business risk I need to write. After audit risk, I write 20. I know how many audit risk I need to write. Uh, After the audit procedures, I'll write 6 marks. So I know how many audit procedures I need to write. And after the ethical issues, I write 10 marks. So I know how many audit procedures, how many ethical issues I need to write. Now you can delete the marks after you have written the briefing note. So in the briefing note, I know I have to do 4 things: business risk in part A, audit risk in part B, audit procedures in part C, and ethical issues in part D, and that completes the briefing note. Now, when you start your briefing note, you need to write an introduction. The introduction is basically the purpose of writing the briefing note. Now, can I write the purpose of the briefing note? That the purpose of writing this briefing note is to do ABCD. So I can quickly write here the purpose. The purpose of writing this briefing note is to evaluate the business risk, and audit risk in planning the audit of Pale company, full stop. Further, this note also include audit procedures on fair value and ethical issues arising from the phone call. See how I wrote the introduction? The introduction has to be short because the introduction is just the purpose of writing the briefing note. So I wrote the purpose of the briefing note, that the purpose is this, and then I put A, B, C, D under, and I'll write the conclusion once I end the answer. Is everyone clear so far, so forth? So I just read the partner email. From the partner email, I got to know that I have to do 4 things. I copied those 4 things on my briefing note, and I quickly converted them into my introduction. So the copy paste is helping you right here. Now, when you start to read the partner email, the partner in the email is telling us Pale Company is a new audit client. Should I copy this information, Pale Company is a new audit client, and paste it under the audit risk? Is Pale Company a new audit client is an audit risk? So I can just copy this. Pale Company is a new audit client, copy, and I can just paste it under the audit risk. Number 1, It will later help me develop my audit risk answer. So if I get to know an audit risk when I'm reading my question, I'll just keep copy pasting that under my audit risk heading. So by the time I reach the end of the scenario, my answer will be ready. So see what the benefit of copy paste. So the first point we got here is that Pale is a new audit client of a firm. So that is the first audit risk. I hope you are looking forward to working on this interesting new client, which is the first timber company we have secured as an audit. This is the first timber company we have secured. So do the audit firm have experience? Will that increase the detection risk? First time we have secured an audit client in the timber industry. So I think the firm lacks experience and that will increase the detection risk. You should also be aware that the management team is planning for Pale Company to achieve a stock market listing within the next 2 years. Is the company planning to take a listing in the next 2 years? Management team is planning for Pale to achieve a listing of the stock market in the next 2 years. Do that increase the risk of management bias? Do that increase the risk of management manipulating the financial statements because they want to take a listing in the next 2 years? So is that another potential audit risk? So should I copy this line, Control C, and paste it under my audit risk heading? Number 2, Control V, management is planning to achieve a stock market listing. 2, I would require you to prepare a briefing note. So that's default. Have you already prepared a briefing note? Because we knew as a student that the question number 1 is to be done in a briefing note format. So see, I've already structured my briefing note for you. What we have to do in the briefing note? A, B, C, D. So have we copied all the ABCDs? Yes. Now we're currently looking at the B requirement, evaluate the audit risk, specifically for the session today. Can you see the note number under the evaluate the audit risk note? And in the note, the examiner is saying, in relation to the company's timber plantation referred in Exhibit 4, you are only required to consider the audit risk relating to the changes in fair value. Any other audit risk will be discussed later in the audit. So examiner is saying that when you look at the Exhibit 4, you are only required to identify the audit risk relating to the changes in fair value only. So is the examiner saying that you will find no other audit risk from Exhibit 4? You will only find from the Exhibit 4 the risk relating to the changes in fair value, right? So reading the note number under the B requirement is important because that note number is telling us that when you go to the Exhibit 4, in the Exhibit 4, you will only find risk relating to the fair value of the timber plantation. No other risk should be found from the exhibit number 4, right? So that's important. Now, should we close the window of the partner email? Have we copied the requirement of the partner email on the briefing note? Do we know the number of marks? Do we know what we need to do? So now the window of partner email becomes useless. So we should just put it across. Now we just have one window here, briefing note, which has already been structured. Now you open the second window, the background information, right here. And you start reading the second page here, the background information, right? Now, in your rough working, because you're attempting the question number 1, which is on risk, and you know the question number 1 on risk cannot be attempted without materiality. So in the rough working, you will prepare yourself for materiality calculations. And for the materiality, you need to find from the case the total assets. Am I right? You need to find the profit before tax and you need to find the revenue because these three help us find the materiality. So when you're attempting a question number 1 in exam every time, you should know the value of total assets, profit and revenue if that is given to you. At times examiner gives you all three, at times examiner only give you one, at times examiner gives you any two of them. But you should find them and note them down because that will really help you when you start reading the case study and you can really find the percentage of that. Right, Rohel, I'm coming to that. I'm demonstrating that. Just wait for 1 minute. Okay, where will we find the numbers of profit, revenue, and total assets? in which exhibit, who is a clever student, in which exhibit will we find the number of the total assets, profit, and revenue? Exhibit number 4, key performance indicator. So key performance indicator is basically your financial summary, and in the financial summary, we'll find the numbers of them, right? So we'll open the key performing indicators right on the screen. I hope you can all see that. And in the key performing indicators, can you see the revenue number for the current year, 42.5 million? So should we copy this number, 42.5 million revenue, and we paste it on the briefing note? Revenue is 42.5 million, right? Okay, let's go back to the exhibit 4. Okay, profit before tax. Can you all see the profit before tax, 6.5 million? Can we copy this and paste it over here? Control 6.5 million. Okay, total assets. Can you all see the total assets, 550 million? Should we copy this and paste it here? Okay, now when we are reading any exhibit and we come across a value, will it become easier for us to find the materiality because we know the numbers and we have copy pasted the number in the rough working? So will rough working make your life easier rather than instead again and going in the exhibit number 4? So have we taken important numbers from exhibit 4 and posted them in our rough working area, right? So will that save time for us? Right? I hope you agree with me, all of you. Okay, so I'm closing the exhibit 4, right? Now see how to implement the changes which have come in syllabus area D1, where we need to prioritize the risk. Now, what exactly it means to prioritize risk? What exactly it means to find the significant risk? If the examiner use a terminology, evaluate the significant risk, or if the examiner use the terminology, prioritize the risk in September 21 exams, how would you go about it? Try to understand this. Suppose if you're attempting a question on audit risk or you're attempting a question on risk of material misstatement, and in the September 21 paper, what if in the September 21 paper, what if in the September 21 paper, examiner asks you, evaluate the significant audit risk or evaluate the significant risk of material misstatement, or ask you to prioritize the significant audit risk or to prioritize the risk of material misstatement as per the changes in syllabus D1. How will you do it using March June 21 question number 1B as an example? Are you all ready for this? What if in the September 21 paper, examiner asks you evaluate the significant risk or prioritize the significant risk as per the changes in syllabus area D1? How will you do it using the March June 21 as a sample, as an example, right? So I'll convert the March June 21 looking into the significance and prioritizations, and I'll give you a good suggestion for that. Now, first of all, before we get into that, what is the literal meaning of significant or prioritized risk as a student? What is meant by significant or prioritize risk for a student in AAA context? Because you need to see everything in the context of the AAA paper, right? So what is meant by significant or prioritized risk for a student in the AAA context? Let's first understand that and then apply to the March June 21 exams. Now understand that first. The first thing, first of all, the prioritized or significant risk means the one flagged by examiner in the case study. The one flagged by examiner in the case study. Now, for example, so far, so forth, what we have read, it is a new audit client. Is that a flagged risk by the examiner? Is the examiner telling us about it's a new audit client, or are we assuming it? Is that an hypothetical risk, or is that a flagged risk? So any risk which is given to you by the examiner, the one flagged by examiner. Is everyone clear with the meaning flagged? Flagged means the one given in the case study, right? It's a new audit line. Uh, the company is to obtain a stock market listing in the next 2 years. Is that a flagged risk? Is that a flagged risk, everyone? Right? So what is meant by a significant risk? The one flagged by the examiner in the case study. So number two, what is meant by a significant risk? Materiality level, materiality percentage. The one which has a higher materiality. That is the second definition, right? That is the second definition of what is a significant risk. The one flagged, the one which has a higher materiality, the one which has a higher materiality is the significant risk or is a prioritized risk. Now, suppose there are three risks. One has a materiality of 7% of the total asset. One has a materiality of 5% of the total asset, and one has materiality of 4% of the total asset. Are they all material? 7% of total asset, 5% of total asset, and 4% of total asset. Are they all material? Yes. But which of them is significant? The 7%. So should we write 7% first, followed by 5%, and followed by 4%? Is that the right order? Is that the right order of giving the answer? Right? So you can use the higher percentage first when you're answering, then the second one, then the third one. So materiality. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Go back to the paper I was doing. Can you all see the practice platform on the screen in front of you? Can you all use the practice platform? Right? Okay, now listen to me. We'll go one by one, Mushtaba. So just wait for 1 minute. Sorry, that was a question by Nikita. Nikita, just wait for 1 minute, right? Okay. Now we know the materiality numbers from the case. So if we open the background information first, which is the first exhibit. Now in the background information, if that is in front of your screen now, and I just enlarge that for you, you open the background information screen. Now let's see, is there any risk which materiality can be found? I'm reading the background information. Keep your focus strong, and I'll illustrate how you identify significant risk. Pale company own and manage timber plantation. Approximately 5% of the trees are harvested each year. The company immediately processes the timber which is harvested from felled trees in the own sawmill. The processed timber, which is mainly logs and plank of wood, is then sold to a range of customers, including construction companies and furniture manufacturers. Approximately 30% of timber is exported. So 30% of your timber gets exported. Is there a risk relating to how the company use the exchange rate when they are recognizing the initial transaction, and how they use how they do the retranslation using the closing rate? Is there a potential risk of material misstatement with 30% timber exported? Is there an application of IS 21 here? Is there an application of a spot rate and a closing rate at the time of initial transaction and at the time of retranslation? Can there be some receivables from the customers? Can there be some receivable from the customers to whom you do the export sales? Right? So can this become my audit risk? Approximately 30% timber is exported. So can I just highlight this and take this to my briefing note, my risk number three in order? My risk number three in order of the case study is that 30% timber is exported. Sorry, I just need to copy that rightly. Just give me 1 minute. I go back. I need to copy this line. I didn't copy it well. Control C, and I go back here on my briefing note and I write it here. Approximately 30% of the timber is exported. I'm just trying to find the risk in order of the exam context. but then I'll tell you how you can go about prioritizing them or finding the significant one for exam paper, right? Okay, move back. So approximately 30% is exported. Your firm was appointed as auditor of PAIL in March. So we already know this is a firm was appointed as auditor of PAIL in March. So your firm was appointed as auditor of PAIL in March. So we already know this is a firm anymore. The examiner's list of risk. Come to the last paragraph, department. Okay, can you all hear me? Okay, just 1 minute. Okay, is it okay now? Okay, is my voice clear? I was not speaking, right? So if anyone is saying it's gone again, I was not speaking. Is my voice getting with clarity now? Okay, that's great. Okay, now look at the last paragraph. It says, company has a small internal audit department with two staff who reports to the company's CFO and does not have an audit committee. Does that increase the control risk? Does that increase the risk of material misstatement in the financial statement that they have a small internal audit department and that is not even independent? They're reporting to the CFO. So the internal audit department is not independent and they even don't have an audit committee. Fine, it's not a listed company currently, but are they planning to become a listed company? So in line with good practices, should they have an audit committee? Because 2 years down the road, they will be a listed company. And that is a very good corporate governance practice that even if you are a large non-listed company, you should have an audit committee. So currently, I think this is a control risk, control C, that becomes my fourth audit risk. Fourth audit risk. And I paste my fourth audit risk here. Fourth, small internal audit department, right? So the small internal audit department becomes my risk. So does that complete my exhibit number 2, background information? Anything left in the background information? No, that is it. Such a small exhibit. Is there any numbers in this exhibit where we can find materiality? No. So just cross this background information. Now come to the exhibit number 3, the most important one, where I will demonstrate you the significant risk. Can you all see the exhibit 3 on your screen, notes from the meeting? Exhibit 3, notes from the meeting, right? Okay. Now, when you look at this exhibit number 3, the first thing in the exhibit number 3 is the accounting policies. And the management is telling you about the accounting policies of ICE 41 because they're dealing in timber. So ICE 41 is very important. And we need to think about whether the accounting policy adopted by management is right or wrong. When you read these accounting policies adopted by the company is right, and there's no issue in the accounting policy. So I'm currently ignoring this particular paragraph from here, accounting issues. Then you get to the next paragraph, international expansion. In the international expansion, can you see there is a value coming here for the first time? Can you see there is a value coming? The acquisition of the rainforest will cost 25 million. So is that the first value? $25 million of acquisition. $25 million of acquisition. Control C. I go back to my briefing note without even reading what the acquisition is. I go to my rough working, and in the rough working, I say Control V. Acquisition of the area of rainforest will cost 25 million. Acquisition seems like I-16 of a rainforest. It seems like a capital expenditure of 25 million. $25 million. Is that a nature of a balance sheet? Is that a nature of a P&L? Balance sheet. So should I find the materiality? 25 million. divided by 550 million. Use your calculators. Please tell me the materiality. In the exam, you can use your own calculators, right? 4.5%. Okay. So 4.5%. Acquisition of the areas of rainforest, right? 4.5% of the total assets. Of total assets. Okay, rough working. Go back to the exhibit number 3. So we found the first number finally. Next, without even knowing what this is, but we found the value. Okay, you go next, next. Okay. Do you find another paragraph where the examiner is saying a grant of $20 million? A grant of $20 million was received, right? So is that a value, a grant of $20 million? So can we go back to the briefing note in the rough working? Can we paste under the materiality a grant of $20 million? And can we quickly find the rough working 20 divided by 550? Because grant is basically a balance sheet item initially. Okay, it's 3.64% of the total assets. Okay, so if I need to prioritize, which is my priority, $25 million or $20 million in terms of writing the answer? So if I need to order, will I order 25 million above the 20 million? Right? One is 4.5%, one is 3.64%. Okay, come back to the exhibit 3. When you come back to the exhibit 3, okay, is there any number coming further? No. You get to the gold standard paragraph. There is no number in the gold standard paragraph. Okay, you go with the next contract with Royal Company. There is no value coming in contract with Royal Company. Leave it out. You come to legal case. Can you find a number in legal case? A legal case of a $19 million. A legal case of a $19 million. Is that important? A legal case of a $19 million, right? Should I go back and find the materiality of the legal case? Legal case of a $19 million. Legal case of $19 million. Now, do you understand that the legal case is not just a balance sheet item? So you will not say $19 million divided by 550 million, which is 3.45% of the total assets. But do you believe a legal case it will also impact the shareholder profitability if it is to be recognized as a provision? So can you find the percentage for profit? Oh, that's awesome, Rohit. It's 292% of the profit. If we need to recognize a provision, it is 19 million. It is 19 million divided by 6.5 million of the profit. So it is 293% of the profit before tax. Will the shareholder profit gets to loss? And can the management use this to fabricate the financial statement, because they want to take a stock market listing in the next 2 years? So will they have an intention of recording a provision? Will they have an intention of recording this provision? No, they will have no intention. Otherwise, their profit will get to loss and they will not fetch a good share price. So can this be used as a risk of management bias in fabricating the financial statement? So 293% of the profit. So now if you look at the 3 risks on your screen under the materiality, 1 to 3, which of them is the most significant? Right? Now this for me is number 1. See, I'm doing the rough working in exam paper. I'm a student sitting in exam hall. I'm doing the rough working. Number 1. So this is number 1 for me, right? Because it's impacting the profit. Okay, let's go to the next one. Come back to the exhibit 3. Okay, changes in the fair value. Can you see the next risk? Changes in the fair value due to a recent storm. So there was a recent storm, and the recent storm has affected the fair value. Let's see how much fair value has been affected. Okay, 70.5 million, right? Management has determined that a reduction in fair value of 70.5 million should be recognized in respect of timber plantation in the statement of financial position. Changes in fair value of 70.5 million should be recognized in respect of timber plantation in the statement of financial position. Will there be any impact of this in the statement of comprehensive income, or it will just be going to the statement of financial position? Both. So management is saying it should be recognized in the statement of financial position. They are not saying it should be recognized in the statement of comprehensive income as well. If the management don't record the changes in fair value in the statement of comprehensive income, will the profit be overstated? Will the profit be overstated? So changes in fair value of 70.5%, changes in fair value of 70.5%, if I just copy this down, changes in fair value of 70.5%, 70 divided by 70.5 divided by 550 million is equal to 13%, right? 13%? 13% of the total assets. But is it also impacting the profit? So should I divide 70.5 million with the total asset, with the profit as well, 6.5 million, everyone? So how much is it of the profit? 1084% of the profit, right? Something like that. Percent of the profit. Now tell me, is the management does the management want to obtain a listing in the next 2 years? Yes or no? Will they have an intention not to record the 70.5 million fully or partially in the profit in the P&L? And will they also hide the provision, conceal the provision? Because if they record a provision and if they record the changes in the fair value in the P&L, will this be a profit-making company or will this be a loss-making company? So number 3, number 4, are the potential risk of material misstatement, are the significant risk of material misstatement, because they were hitting the profit. So which will be number 1 for me now out of the 4? Number 1 for me would be, okay, number 2, legal case. Number 3, acquisition. Number 4, the government grant. See orders. If a company is listed or if a company is becoming listed, see, either in the AAA paper the company is listed, or in the AAA paper the company is becoming listing. This is the only two scenarios you get in the AAA paper, right? Because examiner will never give you a non-listed company in the question number 1. So when you need to prioritize the risk, will you look at the risk prioritization in the context of the total asset or profit? Because if it is a listed company or it is about to become a listed company, will profit be the right parameter to judge whether it is a significant risk? Okay, is my voice clear now to all of you? Okay, so my question to all of you was that when you are prioritizing a risk, will you prioritize the risk by looking at a percentage to profit or a percentage to total assets? Profit, right? So in terms of prioritizing the risk, the total asset will become number 3. Total asset will lose the value, right? So see, till the time we didn't found number 3, number 4, till the time we didn't found number 3, number 4, the first two risk, the acquisition was number 1 and grant was number 2. But the moment we found number 3, number 4, the acquisition and grant lost their significance. Am I right? So the 4, the acquisition and grant lost their significance. Is that correct, everyone? Okay, that's great. That's great. Right? So have you got some relevance to significance? Should I go back and write this down on my Word file? And we will still be in the same question tomorrow. So what is meant by a significant risk or a prioritized risk? Number one, the one flagged by the examiner. If you start taking hypothetical risk or your self-assumed risk, which is not given in the case study, that will not be a significant risk. Materiality, higher percentages. And in materiality, focus on the ones which impact profitability. So when you're finding the materiality and the higher percentages, focus on the ones which impacts profitability will be more important to the auditor because shareholders are more connected with profitability. So when you're finding the materiality percentages, there will be some factors, there will be some issues in the case, which will be divided by the total assets. There will be some issues in the case which will be divided by the profit. So the ones divided by the profit will be the more important ones over the one divided by the total assets. Do you all agree with me? Rohel, I will be giving the answer to this tomorrow when I continue with the same question and draft the answer, right? So materiality, focus on the one which impact the profitability because they will be more important to the auditor over the ones which impact the total assets. So the total assets will lose the significance over profitability, right? As a measure of materiality. The last one. Now there are some risks which are important, which are default because they are the one which are the one identified by ISA 240. They are the one identified by ISA 240 as specific fraud risk factor, a specific fraud risk factors. Now, some risks are important because they're given in ISA 240 and they are known as specified fraud risk factor and they are known as significant inherent risk by default. Significant inherent risk by default. Number one, revenue recognition. And I think most of the past paper, if you've solved, revenue recognition is one of the key element in most of the question number one. So revenue recognition, if that is an issue in any paper, then revenue recognition will be a very significant risk because it is a specific fraud risk factor identified in ISA 240. Provisions, estimates, wherever estimates are involved, just like the legal case, just like the fair value, the changes in fair value, provisions and estimates are considered as important risk as per ISA 240. So revenue recognitions, provisions and estimates, and areas involving risk of management bias. Like the company is to be listed in the next 2 years. These are potential fraud risk factor because revenue recognition, provision or estimates, and areas involving risk of management bias are opportunities for management to manipulate the financial statement. So when you're prioritizing the risk, look at the ones which have higher materialities in terms of profit. Look at the ones which are specific fraud risk factor in the case study, and look at the one which are flagged by the examiner. Now, when you put your March 21 answer, which I will be putting with you tomorrow, how would you prioritize them? Because you had some issues like a new audit line. Now, if I make up my list, for example, before I resume with the same exercise tomorrow, see, if I make my list in the briefing note, we had risk Pale is a new audit client. Management is planning to have a listing in next 2 years. Approximately 30% timber is exported. A small internal audit required. Number 4, if I write in order, not in priority, right? If I write in order, my next risk will be acquisition, grant. Next 4 risk in order would be, just give me 1 minute. My next risk in order I got was acquisition of rainforest. Then my next risk in order was order of the case, right? Not the order of priority, was the grant. After the grant, the next risk was the legal case. And then the next risk I got from the case was changes in fair value till the point we have read, right? So 8 risk. Now, there might be more when I read the question tomorrow because we are still left with exhibit number 4 to be read. And there might be more risk in exhibit number 4, right? Let's find that out. At least we have the list ready for tomorrow. And then tomorrow I'll write the answer for you. I'll write, I'll tell you how to prioritize 1 to 8, and that will give you a real good relevance of the syllabus area D1. Is that clear to all of you? No, Fatima, we should not find 20 risk. I'll be giving you the marking scheme. I've already given you marking scheme in the June 21 webinar, so I'll be focusing on it tomorrow. But 20 marks doesn't mean you're writing 20 audit risk, right? Okay, can we just complete the last exhibit today, exhibit number 4 on your screen? Then so tomorrow we can prioritize the risk, right? Okay, exhibit number 4. In the exhibit number 4, we have already taken the percentages for materiality. We have taken the revenue percentage for materiality, right? We have already taken the percentage of total assets and all of them in context. So use some numbers, right? But let's see if there are any risk we can identify. Risk of management bias numbers. Okay. Okay, can you see in these numbers inventory number here? Inventory last year was 9.2 and inventory this year is 15.4 million. Has inventory increased a lot over the last year? Right? Look at the reason. The reason for inventory increasing a lot is the increased inventory level. The increased inventory level is explained by the management as follow. In the last 2 months, industrial action at the country port means no container of processed timber can be shipped to our export customer. Oh, that's wonderful. We cannot export to our customer because there are some restrictions on port. So does that mean we cannot sell timber to our export customer because of restrictions? Is there restrictions on the port, and for that reason we cannot ship our orders to our export customers? And that is the reason that our inventory is piling up, right? So everyone clear why our inventory is piling up? Our inventory is piling up because of the restriction on the port, and for that we cannot ship to our export customer. If you're writing a business risk, can we lose our customers? Can our customers switch to a competitor for finding the alternative timber supplier? Because currently we cannot ship. Do you understand that our export sales are important because they're 30% of our total sales? What if the inventory of timber which we cannot sold because of trade restriction should be valued at the lower of cost or NRV? What if we cannot sell this timber to our local market? What if this timber is of specialized nature and according to the specification of a customer, and we cannot sell it to another customer? Is there a risk of cost versus NRV if the inventory is piling up due to industrial action? Everyone understand this, right? So is that another important risk relating to inventory which we can discuss tomorrow? And is there a materiality number for inventory? Inventory is 15.4 million. So can we find the percentage of materiality as well? So there is another risk. Risk number 9 in order, inventory. Okay, and what is the percentage of materiality if you can find that for me? Number 5, inventory. Inventory is 15.4 million. Inventory is 15.4 million, which is 2.8% of the total assets, right? So in terms of my priority, where will inventory go? Inventory will go at number, it's the least percentage in assets, right? So it will go at number 5. So we got another risk, which is basically the risk number 9, which is inventory, the changes in value. Okay, let's look at, do we have another risk here? Final one. Okay, cash. Can you see the cash has fallen down from the last year? 6.8 million, this is 4.5 million. Cash levels have depleted. Do you think depleted cash levels is an indicator of a going concern? Is that a can that be considered as a doubt over your going concern status? Depleting cash levels? Is there a liquidity risk? Yes. And do you believe liquidity risk is an indicator of a going concern? We're not saying company will close down, but is that an indicator of a going concern which should be disclosed in the notes to the financial statement? It is, right? So should we take cash level 4.5 million as a going concern indicator? Last point, depleting cash levels, depleting cash levels, depleting cash levels. 10. So you got a list of 10. We don't need to write 10 to take 20 marks. Because some of the risk will be worth 3 marks, some of the risk will be worth 2 marks. I will be showing you the marking scheme tomorrow as we write the proper answer forth. If I stop my session now because we are left with last 5 minutes, and that's important. I need some quick answers from your side. Have you understood how I use the practice platform and the order in which I went on the practice platform? I just first opened the briefing note. I structured my briefing note even before reading the requirements. Once my briefing note was structured, I read the screen on the right quickly. And from the screen on the right, I just get to know the name of the client and the name of the audit firm and the number of exhibits, and that it was not a listed company. Then I started reading exhibit 1, 2, 3, 4 in order. When I read the exhibit number 1, that was a partner email, I quickly filled up my briefing note, and I quickly filled up the to from subject in the briefing note and even wrote the introduction, and I even filled up the ABCD. Then I also, after I structured my briefing note, I put a rough working on top of my briefing note, because the rough working will help me not to switch between a scratch pad and a briefing note, because that will waste a lot of time. So I would discourage using a scratch pad and instead using a rough working. And once I complete my answer tomorrow, I'll show you how you delete the rough working so that your briefing note looks good and clean. Currently, our briefing note is looking very untidy, but it'll start looking better when we move to the second phase tomorrow. Then I read with you all the exhibits, and from each exhibit, wherever I found an audit risk, I press Control C and Control V, and I keep pasting them on my Word file. So I hope you got some relevance of how you change windows, how you went from Control C and Control V, copy paste, how you use the rough working. I hope you like the technique of rough working, because that will really help you find the materiality levels, will really help you prioritize the risk before you write them down. That will really help you formulate a very good answer for the examiner, right? So have you understood the D1 mechanism a bit today? So I will be resuming from the same question and from the same area tomorrow. And I think the first 1 hour of the day 2 tomorrow will be on the March June 21 question number 1, because I will be giving you the answer, the marking scheme, and you will understand how you identify the significant risk from the case study, right? Is that clear to all of you? So I'll resume that from tomorrow. I'm crossing my screen, it will automatically be saved. So anything I wrote on the practice platform will be saved, so nothing to worry about. So I'm just putting my practice platform off. So tomorrow, I'll resume back with March June 21, question number 1. But after we complete that, we'll shift to the agenda of the day 2. And the agenda of the day 2, if I just recap so that you know, after we complete the day 1 agenda tomorrow, we'll be starting with the day 2 agenda, which is ethical, professional, and quality control issue. Each day, if the agenda doesn't get complete, it will be carry forward the next day, and I have kept space for it. So see, the agenda didn't complete it today, so it will get carry forward tomorrow, and then we'll resume with the day 2 agenda tomorrow. And if that happens tomorrow as well, then some of the agenda of day 2 will shift to day 3, and that's how we will catch up the 15 hours, right? Because I've kept the buffer space every day, so by the time we reach the day 5, everything will be completed. So did you like the session today? Did you learn something from the session today? And please join live tomorrow, because if you want to have the continuation of the March June 21 exam, because I will be completing the March June 21 exams tomorrow, and after that you can do the September December 20 question number 1 yourself, right? You will be getting the Word file on the WhatsApp group. You will be getting the recordings uploaded on my YouTube channel as well. I'll be guiding you about that on the WhatsApp group. So nothing to worry about. If I forgot to answer any of your questions, please do ask those questions on the WhatsApp group. I hope you had a good session. You learned something out of the session today. That's very, very important. And I hope you will be coming live tomorrow in the session today, because that will be connected with what we have learned today. So uh, D1 change will complete tomorrow, and D2 change will come on day 4, right? And we're not worried about the changes of G2 till the time examiner writes an article on it, right? Okay, thank you so very much for joining this session. I would be looking forward to your feedback. The time for the session is up, so your feedback will be important to me. If you can just quickly drop one sentence feedback quickly. How was the session today? Did it help you learn something? Because every webinar is different. Because some of the things have been done in the previous webinar, and I should not repeat them, because you can watch the previous webinars, and then September 21 webinar will look good. If I start to repeat everything I've done in the June 20 webinar, then it will not be looking good, right? So I want to keep it different as well, right? So thank you very much for joining the session today. I hope you'll all come back live tomorrow. Have a nice day. Study effectively for your exams. It's your tutor Kashif Kamran signing off from the day 1 of the Practice to Pass webinar for September 21 exams. Goodbye. Allah Hafiz. Take care, all of you.